This is, I always want to wait until the circle stops and it says I'm live. So here we go. Tony Dottino. I'm working now to do my Live with Tony broadcast in the 7 p.m. hour each evening, East Coast time. I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, and people suggesting I try to find the same time every day. And I'm getting a lot of wonderful comments, so it really inspires me to keep going and doing Live with Tony as part of the work that we do. Now, what is the work that we do? I am the president of Dottino Consulting Group, and I am the founder of the USA Memory Championship. And over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of gotten away from some of the memory techniques and skills for a couple of reasons. Most importantly, in my consulting work, I've learned so many things about the human brain in 30 years of research and working with some of the top people in the country. And I've wanted to share those lessons with people as it relates to social distancing and social interactions and nutritional habits. And I've just got so many things I wanted to keep sharing. I've kind of gotten a little bit away from some of the core foundational issues that I've been really passionate and focused on, which was mental health and how do we improve our cognitive function. Well, a few weeks ago, the second thing that happened a few weeks ago, I went to the post office. And in fact, it was now a month ago, it was about a month ago, March 18, went to the post office and had a change of address from the P.O. box to have it delivered to our personal home. And somewhere over the last month, the mail is not getting to our home address. And so we're working with the post office on that over the last few days. But the good news is something finally showed up in our mailbox. And one of the things I do in my broadcast is I use current literature, readings, media, what have you, to really talk about, the current topical issues as it relates to memory. And so as I'm reading today's mail, this one really hit me. And it's coming out of the ARC Bulletin that was just published now. So it's an ARC Bulletin. It's April 2020. So it's an ARC Bulletin, April 2020. And here we go, ARC Bulletin. But let me show you what hit me. Brought me back to tonight's broadcast and what I want to talk about. Do you see that headline there? Woman and Dementia, Woman and Dementia. And it's my other half certainly paid attention to this, and that was women make up nearly 2/3 of the 6 million people living with Alzheimer's. Whoa, women make up nearly 2/3 of the people that are suffering with Alzheimer's, which now is begging the question, why is it so lopsided? Why is it so tilted towards women versus men? And so I'm reading through the article, and what really started to hit me is the response that we've been getting from seniors in the workshops that we've been doing, Michael and I have been doing, utilizing the material that comes out of his Maximum Memory Mastery online course. So using that and going to live workshops, we've really seen a woman grabbing onto this. It's been amazing in watching what we've been seeing in the different modules and the different segments from the online course, and how females are really grabbing onto this as quickly as anything. I'm not trying to do a study on men versus women here, but it's been fascinating when I look back and talk with Karen Pinson, who is our key person that drives the USA Memory Championship for 22 years. She's always noted to us that we get many more men than females or women competing in the USA Memory Championship. So in the past, we've kind of written that off as it must be because they just don't want to be as competitive. But when I look at women's basketball and women's softball and women's soccer and women's athletic endeavors over the last 20 years, I can't buy that. I just can't accept that women are not as competitive in the sense that they wouldn't want to work to improve their mental health and they wouldn't want to improve their cognitive fitness, short of coming up with, let me be in the 2/3 that takes me to Alzheimer's. So the big search is on here, and what this article is going on to search through is, okay, there's now a brain health group, and there's Alzheimer's Foundation from Maria Shriver. And I just keep scratching my head. We've been at this for 22 years, and I still feel that, we're in the mode of being discovered, which we were finally at the state of discovery with Penn State University and with MIT for the 22nd year, and had these incredible plans for April that are kind of moving a little bit now. And we're trying to recover from the corona recovery. And then in October, we've got the national event up at MIT. And of course, then we look at it and we have Lumosity, who has signed on this year to be our sponsor. So we're excited and optimistic, and we're looking forward to what we can do. Okay, student population is dominated by women. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, I get a note from Karen, our student population dominates on the female side, but the adult population is where we're losing the female side. So she's distinguishing, sending me a note back saying, okay, correct your presentations. Let me get that right. When we talk to kids in the middle school, high school grades, females seem to be dominant. But when we get to the adult side of the competition, males are dominant. So we've been doing our best in getting people out there to realize what the competition is really all about is showing to people that anyone can learn to improve their memory. And by the fact that you compete in the competition, it isn't about who wins and who loses. It's a matter of you've done something to help learn some skills that actually improve your memory. And one of our 4-time winners, Nelson Dellis, has gotten involved and becomes a person of note because his grandmother passed from Alzheimer's, and he was focused on what was he going to do with his brain to prove that there are things you could learn and do at an early age that would help minimize and offset any impacts that he may have at an older age with Alzheimer's. The good news for him is he started it at a young age, okay? And he didn't wait. He's not waiting. He's very proactive about it. And he wasn't waiting and isn't waiting for it to creep up on him and then start trying to figure out at age 60, what do I start to do? So our mission has been, how do we get people to focus on skills they can learn and then practice that help them accelerate their own learning? So it's not like, gee, I'm going to be in a memory competition, I want to do this for that. It's the skills that we teach and the skills that are part of the Maximum Memory online course are not just there for people to compete in a memory competition. They're there to help people accelerate their learning, improve their self-confidence, which we've seen over. I mean, people ask me, why do I keep doing this event? I just see the difference it makes on people's lives. So I see the difference in their self-esteem and their self-confidence and how they project themselves, how they get up and speak in front of people, and how many of our adults as well as student mental athletes have gone on and are doing some great things in their lives that they never thought possible. So to me, it's an intervention that clearly helps all humans to improve their own mental capacities that have longer lasting impacts than just coming in for a day to compete in a memory championship. And it baffles me when I read, things like this. I read this article and I almost wanted to scream. I'm saying, we've been at this for 22 years. How do we get the messaging out to a broader scale of people, men and women, children and adults, that there's so much more that we can do to improve our memories than we ever thought possible? And we've got a number of our memory champions, as well as people who have not been champions that have gone out into the world and are trying to educate people on the fundamentals and the skills and the things that they can accomplish by just focusing on different methods and systems that actually exercise your brain, that help you to improve whatever it is you want to improve in your life. So again, I'm reading this out of the ARP issue of April, and I just, so we got to have this institute now, and we got to do all these things with people with Alzheimer's, and like, let's get out in front of this when kids are in school. Let's get kids to learn how their memory works. And I always think of a keynote talk that I did in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a number of years ago, when I asked the high school students, and there must have been 60 of them in the room, and I asked them, when do we use our memories? And a young man in the front row got up and he said, my goodness, is that a trick question? And I looked at him and I said, no, this is not a trick question. I'm not trying to stump anyone, but asking obvious. And he answered, like, in everything we do and all day long. And I then asked the next question, when have we learned how we can improve it? And a teacher yells out and says, we don't teach that. And I'm like, ugh. So we use it all day long. It's something that applies to our life. We worry like crazy, create anxiety and panic over it, don't want to ever lose it. And yet, what are we doing? We're not teaching it. So does it make sense that something we use all day long and something that we worry and build an anxiety and a fear and kind of almost become closet warriors about it, then has to show up in a magazine that says, hey, 2/3 of females in our world wind up with Alzheimer's. And I say, can we be more proactive? Can we pay attention to the things that we're now learning? We've learned. Forget that we now learn. We've been learning them. How do we build that learning into our education system? How do we build that learning into adult education? How do we broadcast that message out to wide scales of people so it's not, oh my goodness, I'm seeing early Alzheimer's, now I better pay attention. I see early stages of dementia, now I better start doing something. How do we get people to begin to learn the things they can develop and practice and then utilize in their lives that you can implement in daily life? And it's, how do we work smarter? And how do we work yourselves into your maximum capacity? I love that. I just got that note from Patricia Pinson. Brilliant. How do we work ourselves to reaching maximum capacity? Do we want to do that? You know, there are some of us that, you know what, I'm happy with just the way I am, and I'm okay with that, if that's what your goal is. But what I want to create is there's hope for everybody. There's a branch that you can grab onto. You can grab that branch and climb back to the trunk of the tree, hold on to that tree, slide yourself down and say, my feet are firmly planted. There's a world out there that I can reach out and I can go grab. And we see that with a number of our memory champions. And I can start with the first champion of Tatiana Cooley, and I can then move that to Scott Hagwood, who's a cancer survivor. I can move that along with a military veteran, Ronnie White, who's done some amazing things with veterans. I can then talk about Nelson Dellis, who's won the event several times and has got a book that's out now on it. I could talk about Chester Santos, the International Man of Memory. John Graham, who's a substitute teacher who's now working with people and teaching them how to improve their learning skills. And Lance Turcott, who's our most recent champion, and the work that he's doing to try to bring the message out to people. So we've got the evidence, we've got the proof. Now, other than Tatiana Cooley, who was our first 3-year winner, did you notice what was missing in our champions? All right. And it's not, again, about the women are not winning the championship. They're not even participating. Until when? When 2/3 of them wind up with Alzheimer's? And now we're in panic. Now we're in, we got to do something. So we've been working, and I know this has been Karen Pinson. She runs our event for us, and she's just been amazing at what she does and how she analyzes this and focuses on this. And she's been searching for that answer for quite some time. And we will do whatever we need to do to create a more friendly environment that is non-competitive, to get females into the arena of there are things you can do to improve your memory that you may never have thought possible. So Michael and I, over the last year, have addressed a number of senior groups in the Orlando area, and we've had several more scheduled, but that's not going to happen in the short term. But we've had a number of groups that we've addressed, and it's been amazing to us, the female response, which is, there's hope for me. I can see several women just sitting there. There's really something I can do that makes a difference, and there's really hope for me that I can learn these things and actually improve my mental capacity, my learning. You can improve your learning, you can improve your self-esteem, you can improve your self-confidence, and you can minimize at least your own thinking about, gee, is there anything more I can do to improve my memory that I haven't already done? And so we're learning about social interactions and the importance of exercising, the importance of mental challenges. And all I say is, boy, everybody's running around looking for mental challenges. Boy, do we have a mental challenge for you? And I would love to have anybody reach out to Karen or Michael Dattino, myself, any of our champions, and reach out and tell me, how did you do that? What did you have to go through? What practice drills do you go through? Is it so laborious and so terrible that, you know what? How did you get to where you got? And how do we get our team of mental athletes to share their lessons and the feeling that they had as being a part of it and the changes in their lives that it had? And I'm not after changing everybody's life and making everybody feel like, oh my God, my life is so awful, I got to make changes to it. I'm after, how do we reach? This is what Patricia Pinson just said. How do we work yourself to your maximum capacity? I love it. And this is coming from a college student. How much more insightful can it be? So my point to you is, ask yourself the first question, and I always ask this when I'm in front of a public group. Do you believe that you can improve your memory at any age? Do you believe you can improve your memory, comma, pause, at any age? Are you willing to learn how to do that? Are you willing to go out and search and find methods and ways of being able to do it? Are you willing to put the time into it? Are you willing to at least go search it out and open up the possibility? Are you willing to reach out to different people that have done this to say, gee, let me see if there's a model I can follow? And then lastly, are you willing to practice? And when I say practice, sometimes our mental athletes, especially our champions, sometimes worry me. Josh Four, one of our mental champions, wrote a book called Moonwalking with Einstein. And I loved his interview on television. Like, how much time did you have to put in? And he said about 30 minutes, 3 times a week. And I say, do all of you have 30 minutes, 3 times a week? And to that degree, we've structured the online course into modules that break into small sections so that people can go through the sections in part without being, I got to spend an hour on this. No, we've made it smaller and bite-sized so people can go through it at their own pace. If you're inclined to want to be a mental athlete, you can go through it at a faster pace. But we're doing some redesigning right now to slow it down and get it for the common person that may not want to be a mental athlete and compete in a memory championship. And that's just our way of getting the messaging out as in the memory championship. But the more important messaging we have is anyone can learn to improve their memory. And after 22 years of doing this, I don't need research papers. I don't need test groups. I know it makes a difference. How do we make it more fun? And how do we make it interesting is the way we go about this. So how do you teach the skills so people actually, in the workshops we've been doing live, people are amazed at how much laughing they do in the course of a 90-minute workshop session. I mean, they come in, I said, are any of you prepared not to laugh tonight? Because if you're not prepared to laugh, get out of here. I want to have fun. We want to have some interactions. We want to learn from one another. So how do we make it interesting, but interesting and fun? And that's the exciting part to us in terms of what we've been doing. So that's my messaging tonight. I would only encourage all of you to go to the the Maximum Memory Mastery online website, the Maximum Memory Mastery online course. We also had a small little intro for people that want to at least take a little dip into the pot and go try that. And then what we've been doing with the coronavirus challenges, we've been offering, myself or Michael or any of anybody we can reach out to, we're offering an hour of coaching. You can take the online course and we'll give you an hour of coaching with myself, with Michael, with Karen. I mean, we've got people on the team that are more than willing to get on the phone with other people and take an hour and just do that as part of the package so that you can get the maximum out of the Maximum Memory Mastery online course. And so to my thrill, I've been quarantining myself and I'm not going grocery shopping. So let's get to the grocery shopping. I'm not going grocery shopping. Quarantine, not going anywhere. Got a phenomenal neighbor who's actually been through one of the courses and actually uses the things that we teach about linking, connecting, associating, creating story. And so 4 days ago, I said to her, Janet, if you're going back out to the store, here's my shopping list for your next trip. And so you go out, we do social interaction at 4 o'clock every day. My other half and I go out onto our front porch. We've got hedges that are coming around it, so it keeps everybody at a safe distance, right? Social distancing. And so I go sit out there at 4 o'clock. She comes out of her house next door and says, you're there. You're not going to believe what I did today. And she just tells, she shares with me my shopping list and says, and she goes through what, I got this, I got this, I got this, bam. I'm like a little kid because my rye bread is one of my favorites. And my Breyer's chocolate chip ice cream is another one of my favorites. They had blueberries on sale. Hey, let me get some blueberries. We're picking blueberries here in the Orlando area. And so off we went, and she said, and she rattled off, and then later on, I obviously gave her some money for it, and she's just been amazing. And so I walked her through. I wanted her to tell me, how did you remember this? Because she didn't write them down. She stuck them up in here. She loves the names and faces part of what we teach, and she says, I use that to remember people's names and faces, especially when they're odd names. But then she rattles off how she remembered each of the different items. So for my bread, and I'm going to just take you through the 3 of the items. And the bread was simple. She said, the last time I got your bread, I remember how much you loved it. You sent me a note after I delivered it and left it on your porch. You already told me you had 2 slices of it. So I remembered the 2 slices of bread you ate the last time I brought it. So the rye bread was easy. I remember the blueberries. My aunt, who's living with me right now, she eats blueberries. So I just linked you and her together and made a story about both of you enjoy blueberries. So getting you the blueberries was easy. And then the last part of the story, I remember what you've told me about ice cream and what you're trying to do and minimize the amount of ice cream. And I wasn't sure if I should buy you 2, buy one, get one free, which was at the public supermarket. But I remember the story that you shared with me about ice cream. And so, bam, I was quickly able to remember what you needed. And here they are. Perfect. I love it. Fabulous. So she then shared with me, I'm going shopping again on Friday. And I said, well, we're going to add a few more items to the list and see how well you can remember them. And she's like, no problem. Fabulous. Made me extremely happy from 2 counts. First, I got some food that I really wanted to get, and being quarantined and being adamant about staying home. And then number 2 is just her expression and the way she just snapped this stuff off just made me feel so good that here was a woman who is doing everything she can and using her brain. I'm not going to put her on the 60% chart here at all, because she's very proactive, very active, very socially wanting to help people, very out there and being a service to others kind of individual. And I think this makes such a difference in getting to know her. So I call her the miracle of the day person, that lady, that really comes up with a new miracle every day of her life. And isn't that a great place to be? And aren't I lucky to have a neighbor with such an ability. So that's what I wanted to cover. This has gone on a little bit longer, but I was just revved up. I don't know if 7 o'clock every night is going to be my rev up night and time, but I hope my listeners are enjoying these sessions. I'm going to come back on for just a short piece in a few minutes and talk about why did I start the Live with Tony. I think those of you that have been listening have already got that figured out. But we're now moving some of these over from Facebook over to YouTube, is it? I don't know. I'm learning more about social media every day. But remember, I want you to stay safe. Be smart. I'm reading and hearing, even listening to too many stories about people getting careless, kids starting to play with one another, people going into the grocery store without their mask or without their safety values. This is not the time to let up. It's not the time to let up on what goes on up in here. So use it to stay focused on what you're supposed to be doing to stay well. Number two, stay warm. God, these hurricanes and tornadoes, awful. Sorry to see we have people dying from tornadoes. I mean, it's bad enough. We got to worry about the coronavirus. But to add tornadoes on top of this, I mean, we didn't need the icing on that cake. So it's sad to see what people now have to deal with in terms of the destruction to their residences and homes, on top of dealing with what they need to do to be safe with the coronavirus. And what I want to do is keep you focused now on what are we doing for our strong mental health. And so I'm going to be doing the next several broadcasts again on, so how do we absorb what we're taking in every day, whether we're reading it or how we're listening to it. I've got another one of my fans, John Radcliffe, who's how to help us to learn how to read and retain, or listen and retain. So I've done one a couple of weeks ago, but I want to bring some of that back because I may have new listeners that are jumping on board, and we're going to talk about that this week as well. But the one thing I want you to all know is I've got enough of feedback that says do the same time every day. Don't jump around in your time so people can hear you live and send you notes, which is what I've been getting tonight. And I'm good with that. I'll work at 7. Hopefully I'm as energetic as I was tonight. I just love doing these broadcasts. I want to make a difference to each and every one of my listeners, and have my listeners now take what you're learning and expand your own mental capacities and cognitive functions. I will be signing off at this point. It's adottino@aol.com. I've been getting some notes, and I'm paying attention to those notes, though I'm building up more and more skill on Zoom and Skypes. So I'm doing a lot more work than I probably did in the past on Zooms and Skypes, and that's keeping my days just kind of, it's 5 o'clock before I know what hit me, and it's 4 to 5 cocktail hour with the neighbors. So the days are going by pretty quick. I'm like, it's Tuesday night already, and I want to go watch some TV. Anyway, have a good evening. I hope you've enjoyed this. Go figure something out that you're going to do, and go look back at our library of Facebook Live with Tony broadcasts, and go pick one of the earlier ones and see if there's something there that can help you improve your mental capacities. And that's the whole purpose of these videos.